live, everybody. Yeah, so now we've started. Hi, Uncle Curt. How are you? Curt Siffert from the lovely CurtSiffert.com.
Got a mouthful of garden burger and ready to roll.
Okay. No, you're not. And Shane Corsetti, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well.
It's
good
Friday.
to see you.
It is Friday. It is very good to be Friday. And I am Pete Wright, and we're sitting here at the round table at McMinimans. And I have said that for now 47 episodes of this
not
show.
McMinimans.
It's not, no, but the round table.
Oh.
There's nothing round about this
No.
table. No, it's
When we were at
six.
What's that other place? The Ram Brewery.
The Ram?
We had a couple
Small
round
round tables,
or
yeah.
bar tables, where we were on stools.
Yeah.
But this is a, what do you call this?
Well, it's a polygon.
Yeah.
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 I don't really know, but
I didn't do so well in geometry.
No,
so.
clearly.
Trapezoid.
Trapezoidal.
Yes.
It's trapezoidal. What we do have news that Mary has not had her baby yet.
She's not.
We saw her last night waddling about.
Rolling
about, and that
The
is...
baby is still taking over her body.
It is
She
the
has
strangest
not rejected the baby
symbiotic relationship I've ever seen. So she's still wandering around, but she still has not been okayed to return to broadcast.
Something about radio waves and frequencies.
Being close to Jamie, who's also not here. He's doing business. It's business time
Business.
for Jamie. He can't be here. Have you seen Flight of the Conchords?
I did. Oh, I have. I had HBO, illegally. It was not obtained legally, but it wasn't something where I illegally obtained it, if that makes sense.
No.
Okay, well, anyway.
I'd like you to talk specifically about how you acquired it.
Well, I updated. I got
It's
HD
illegal.
I got an HD converter on my box. All of a sudden, for 2 weeks, I had every channel.
Oh, that's
I was like,
good. That's a
sweet.
good deal.
Yeah. And then when things weren't working, I called them up, and all of a sudden, all those free channels went away. But,
Yeah.
So I did watch Flight of the Concorde a couple of times. And
That is an incredible...
It makes me want to get HBO just so I can watch that show.
Well, I'll tell you, I think you sent it to me, Kurt. It was the It's Business Time video of them doing the song It's Business Time, which is all about a married couple who's in the doldrums of their relationship. It's a song about them getting it on.
Yes.
It's business time. And it's really hard to explain, but go to YouTube and do a search for business time and look for the Flight of the
I saw the
Conchords.
one with their manager who's, in the dumps, down in the dumps because he couldn't land him a gig or a record deal. So they went to their dry cleaner, who was a part-time actor. And he pretended to be a record company executive and signed them to this $1 million deal. He was supposed to let their manager down gently to say, hey, I'm from Sony. I think the album's great, but it's not for us. Somebody else will pick it up. But instead, he took his character and said, yes, we'll sign you to a multi-million-dollar record deal. And so the manager goes out celebrating, and the guys are sitting there knowing that there's no
multi-million-dollar record deal. It's I just found them this week. I've never had the pleasure of hearing them before, and they are priceless. It really does. It makes you want to get HBO.
Yeah.
Got to check it out. There are a ton of Flight of the Concorde clips on YouTube.
And their songs are awesome.
They are
too.
awesome. They are awesome. The piece in this business time one, it's kind of a what's his name? Shaft. What's his name who sings?
Oh,
Shaft?
Isaac Hayes.
Isaac Hayes. Kind of an Isaac Hayes love rap, And the next thing you know, we're brushing our teeth, and and that's part of foreplay. It's very, very important part of foreplay.
Pete, is that how it goes? Being the married man.
Well, I will tell you this.
2 children. Business time.
I will tell you exactly this. My wife watched it with me, and we've been married almost going on a decade, I think, and I haven't seen her double over in laughter in maybe 6 years like that.
The kind of laughter that comes from familiarity.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part of it. And the next thing you know, we're doing the recycling, which is not part of foreplay, but it is also very, very important. I mean, it is so right on. I said it to all the married couples that I know, and every one of them wrote back saying, hey, yeah, I wear my socks to bed too. So, speaking of wearing socks to bed, the first story on the docket this week, poor Ante Djindjic 29 from Zagreb.
Yeah.
What happened to poor Ante?
He was out on a ride. I don't know if he riding a motorcycle or a bike.
It was on a...
It says,
I hope it was a motorcycle, because otherwise his story's really
let's
insulting.
go bike. Let's just... He's out on his little... He's pedaling his Schwinn through Zagreb. And he stops to micturate, or
To what?
to void himself.
To void himself.
Yes, so he stops on
In
the
a,
side
in
of
a
the road to
rain.
urinate.
We'll say he does that in a rainstorm.
It's raining, and he's wearing his helmet and his boots, and he got struck by lightning while micturating and while relieving himself. And the lightning earthed itself through his penis.
Oh, man.
Now, can you imagine you're sitting there, you're writing your name, you know,
In the
on the
snow.
side of the road, and all of a sudden, you're like, it's like Ghostbusters.
Now I'm wondering what his name looked like.
Yeah, don't cross the
Don't
stream.
cross the stream.
What is his name?
Like
How
after
do
that.
you write Gingic in urine?
That's a difficult name anyway.
That is a difficult name. There are a lot of dots. J-I-J-I.
Can you imagine holding your junk, you know, and like going all Ghostbusters on the,
Oh, my
you know,
goodness.
you got
And
the,
then you cross the
yeah,
stream.
cross the streams.
Oh, see, now I'm so glad you brought that story to the table this week,
It makes
because
me feel a lot better about myself. Now, everybody who's concerned about
Ante Gingic.
that's Ante, should know that he is okay.
Yeah.
Everything is intact.
Yep.
Doctors say things will be in working order in a little bit. So
And that he was,
they
yeah,
are-
that was the piece that got me. That quote, my penis will function normally eventually, end quote. It's really important that you have the quotes in there,
Yeah.
otherwise it's a little.
well,
too
and I would
personal.
like to add too that I did not come up with on my own that the lightning earthed itself out of his penis.
Well, that is the thing that I learned.
that's the
this.
quote as well.
That is a quote from Ananova.com.
Ananova.
Ananova.
I haven't heard that forever. Do they still have the little avatar computer face reading the news aloud?
I don't see it.
Oh, that was the whole big thing when Ananova came
That's
out.
right.
There
That's
was
right. I
supposed to be
remember
some
that.
robotic head that was going to be reading.
There's
the
no
news.
robotic head, only a robotic penis.
It was like entering into the future.
That is so the piece that I learned out of this was that, quote, I was wearing rubber boots and the lightning earthed itself through my penis. I mean, the number of times I've said that thinking
Yeah.
that nobody would understand. And now,
Instead of saying I'm going to go to
to
the
find out it's a validation.
instead of saying I'm going to go to the bathroom, I say, well,
I
I
need
have
to go earth myself.
Yes. There's speaking of funny stories, there was one I read the other day that happened in southeast Portland where a man had a rattlesnake at a party. And I guess he found it, or some sort of poisonous
Sounds
snake.
like a great party.
Yeah. And his ex-girlfriend was there, and he was getting all, you know, he'd had a few cocktails too many. And decided that, you know, his ex-girlfriend said the snake was gross to get it away. And he's like, no, it's a really friendly snake. Watch. I'll put the snake in my mouth. What? Yes. So he puts the snake in his mouth. It happens to bite him. Spews
Like
its
on
venom
on the tongue.
on the tongue. Yeah. So everything all of a sudden starts swelling up. It's this whole emergency room thing, and the doctors have to aspirate him and put this tube down his throat. And they had to call in a specialist to do it because
Don't they?
the
It's like
yeah.
they just take the tongue.
What's that?
They just take the tongue.
Yeah, well,
cut
they,
it right
you know,
off.
they
You
took
gotta
the
lance it.
They took the antivenom and everything was taken care of. But the guy, so they interview the guy afterwards. He's like, you know, he's 23 years old, something like that. He's like, I was just an idiot, you know.
Yeah.
I stuck a snake in my mouth, it bit me. Yeah, you almost died because of it too.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
so-
were an idiot.
yeah.
What's the worst injury you've ever sustained?
You know, I broke my collarbone and separated my shoulders. And those hurt pretty bad,
Yeah.
I'd say.
That's it? That's a big one?
I don't
You've
know.
never been, shot or gored by a bull?
No, nothing along those
Okay.
lines. You?
All right. No, but I got something. Kurt?
Yeah, yours is going to be better than mine.
Go ahead, bring it. Bring the rain.
I was moving out of the house. I was living with a girl, and
She knifed you?
I was moving out, and I had my last couple of possessions in a box, put it in my pickup truck, and I slipped, and I either sprained or broke my ankle. I did not get it diagnosed.
Are you serious?
No, I never really knew what it was. I mean, it just swelled up like you would.
Were
not
you
believe.
using it as sympathy?
That's what your worst
girl
injury
back.
ever? You sprained your ankle?
Yeah. I live well.
I would say well or daintily. All right, I got one. I was at my aunt's house in Dallas or Houston. Actually, it was Houston, and we were. I was with their neighbor girl was over, and the neighbor girl was sitting on my aunt's bed, and I was sitting on the floor, and there's the dog, this runt dog that my aunt had. The neighbor girl was poking the dog, and I said, "Don't poke that dog. It is going to bite you. That dog. It's going to get mad, and it's going to bite you."
But you really.
And the girl poked the dog again, and then the dog turned around and missed her and bit me and grabbed my ear and gave it a good shake and ripped it off, attached by nothing but the lobe. I know. Now, I was like 8, and it was Christmas time. It was a week
you
before
must
Christmas.
have attached lobes. I got dangles.
You got dangling lobes. This would have been a bad thing for you.
Yeah.
And so the scariest part was that my aunt was in the shower. And then she came out of the shower when she heard the screaming. That's not a good thing for an 8-year-old to see.
No.
The naked showered aunt. That was
You're not
I
worried
can
about
honestly
your
say, more traumatic than the blood gushing out of my head. All right, but then they put me in the car and we go to, and so there was like a family reunion holiday thing, right? So we had strange relatives I didn't know, and I had my head on one's lap, and we were in Houston traffic, and he had his hand on my head to stop the bleeding, and by the time we got there, it had like dried, so his hand stuck to my head. Had to pull it off. It was like ripping the ear off again. But I had some great Houston doctors, and they sewed it right back on, and I can still wiggle it. Like it still has feeling.
I remember the very first time that you told me that story, because the story is actually identical to like an old joke, where you talk about like
Except
a
there's
rabid,
no punchline.
Well, yeah, but the punchline scared the hell out of me. This was the one with the rabid dog that rips off the ear, and then you say, like, if you can feel, like, just put your hand and just feel it, like, right
you do the
behind
bark
my
there.
ear,
Yeah.
and then you'll feel the scar, and you go,
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't do that.
Yeah,
I
you
didn't do
should've.
that. And
Because
I
I
was like,
didn't
the whole
know that
time
there was
I'm
a
listening
joke.
to Peter tell me the story, and I'm like, yeah, sure, okay, I've heard
And
that
then you
before.
felt my ear, and what did you feel?
I felt something there.
Yeah,
and
it's
that freaked me
it's
out.
scar tissue,
And it's
no
like, that
dog.
freaked
Freaked
me
out more than-
And then I was so much expecting you to start barking that when you didn't, that freaked me out too.
Man, I'm learning so much about our relationship.
We had a traumatic past, Peter.
Truly, tell me about it.
Guys, the
What is
show's
it?
not long enough to go.
No,
to that.
we seriously can't go into therapy because we have a much more traumatic injury that we need to talk about right now, and that is Mr. Andrew Meyer.
Who?
Andrew Meyer, the taser guy.
Oh.
All right, so what's this? Kurt, this is the one you didn't know how to talk about, so I think you should be the one to talk
Don't
about this
tase
story.
me, bro. Don't tase me, bro. What'd I do? Bro, don't tase me. Ow!
It hurts. It hurts. It hurts.
Ow!
Okay, you're making fun of the guy. He got tasered. All right,
Now,
seriously?
Jamie's always said he wants to get tasered on the air.
We've got our friend, the police officer, that we have been inviting back. He just got married, and
I'll do it.
You'll
I'll tase
taser Jamie.
We don't need a police
We need
officer.
a police taser, though. That's
okay.
the important part. We need the verisimilitude. We need to make sure that it's a real taser because
Yeah.
I want you to feel the pain.
In order for it to be really effective, I mean, it can't just be like a zzz. It's got to be a
Yeah, you got to hear the clicking of the recharge every time.
It's got to be. So you got to convince Jamie that it's got to be for at least 4 seconds.
Yeah, because I want to know. We're going to need to do some motor tests before and after, or like vocabulary tests.
Yeah.
Because we're going to need to know what words we've killed.
Yeah. You should actually test it on different parts of the body so it affects it more. Like go ahead and do it on the tongue. See how
That's
that compares
right.
with the rattlesnake.
Because is it really conductive? Well, okay. So poor Andrew. We got to talk about Andrew here because this was a really hard thing to watch. I found the video
Yeah.
on YouTube. it is extremely disturbing to watch what happened to the guy.
When you don't know anything about it ahead of
Right.
time.
So what happened to the guy?
Well, yeah, it's funny. I mean, I felt the same thing that you did. Like, while I was watching it, you just kind of see the situation degrade and just get worse and worse. And I just felt like this weird sick feeling, you know? Like, that's not supposed to be how things happen. That's not. And so basically, yeah, he's, I guess, you know, the main story that is, as it appears first, is that, you know, the video starts and he is excitedly, you know, he is excitedly asking John Kerry a bunch of questions. You know, it's the kind of thing where they've got the line of people that are lined up for the mic to ask questions, and there are a couple of people catcalling at him and stuff because, you know, he asks the first question, he doesn't wait for an answer, and he says, well, I got two more, and, you know, the questions are things, he ends up with the question of, you know, like, is it true that both you and George Bush were members of the same secret society in Yale? You know, so it's a little kind of conspiracy theory kind of stuff going on. And he's finished asking the question. You can tell that he's finished. He's actually kind of stopped talking a little bit. The cops behind him grab him, and then he's like, "Hey, get your hands off of me! What did I do?" He's fighting against them probably a little bit too much, but you know, it's certainly seemed like they were completely overreacting, and they tackle him to the ground, and then they taser him, which that was the part. Well, the whole thing was very disturbing.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there were like 6 cops, right? You know, they were on this guy, and they were pulling him, trying to get him away from the microphone and away from the crowd, and he started shrieking, you know, why are you arresting me? Somebody help me, somebody help me, they're arresting me for no reason. And the transition from, you know, he's a civil disobedient to, you know, misuse of police conduct was when they had him on the ground and they turned him over and they were restraining him, and there was one officer standing over his head saying, you better calm down, you better shut up, and he starts yelling, wait a minute, don't taser me, bro, and it was almost like there was a transition there between him trying to make a civil point by being a kind of a rabble-rouser to, oh my God, these cops are going crazy. Now, that's kind of how it first appeared, right? Have you seen the video, Shane?
No.
I should have showed you the video before. We'll put a link to it in the show. There are a couple of them from different angles that are good to watch, because what you get out of that is the fact that that at first, Mr. Meyer broke into the front of the line, right? He raced in and cut in line to start asking his questions. And then you start reading that the guy is apparently a magnet for this kind of trouble, that he actually goes out and tries to create this kind of attention. Still, is it any excuse to taser the dude in a crowd of people?
You know, what's funny is that I've also seen one other video. There's there was the whole case of the student at USC. I don't remember his name. You know, vaguely Arabic name, and he was in a library in USC, and the video kind of captured like after the problems had already started happening, and they just had cops around him trying to take him out, and he said that, you know, he was going to leave, but he was also kind of crying out about like police abuse of power and stuff, and these guys tasered him over and over and over again. And this is another one of those videos that's kind of thrilling to watch, because, you know, there's a point in the video where everybody has stood up, everybody's alarmed, but they are still separate from the police. They're watching the police do their job, and it's just kind of that moment where, like, you're watching society watch something happen that they know is bad, but nobody's taking steps forward to do anything. And it's clear that they're already feeling very, very wrong. And then they taser him again. And it's like something goes through the entire crowd. They all rushed forward, and in reaction to, you know, the police tasering him yet again.
Now, what did they rush toward? I mean, like,
what's
they
the
rushing to get out of there, or
they were rushing forward to. They didn't quite turn into a riot, but they were all kind of almost involuntarily, it seemed like, rushing forward to try to intervene and stop the cops from doing that to the guy. And it didn't quite go that way, but anyway, the point that I was more trying to make, that just reminded me that was a really interesting thing to watch. You can find it online. But the point that I was trying to make is that it used to be that if someone was just resisting, the cops used to pick you up and carry you out.
Yeah.
Before tasers came along. And now it seems like that they don't want to bother with picking you up and carrying you out. They want to taser you instead.
I read an article months ago, so my facts are way off on it, but about the overuse of SWAT teams for domestic issues, kind of along these same lines, where instead of sending, the police to knock on the door and, figure out what's going on, they're sending SWAT teams, to go in with force for whatever these issues are. Some are big, some are small, some don't need SWAT teams, and then the fallout is that the SWAT teams sometimes are in such a rush or on a rush that they go to the wrong house, or they physically abuse somebody for a really small crime that they've committed,
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, I feel like we had a similar discussion with another officer on another show. This idea of non-lethal, the use of non-lethal force. And I feel like part of what we're seeing here in this pendulum swing is that there's justification in using a taser to subdue a civil disobedient because it's okay, it's non-lethal.
Yeah, that's their point.
That's the point, that it's okay, it's non-lethal,
because
but
you'll recover
you'll get over it.
It hurts like hell, but you'll get over it.
It'll shut you up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it does. It shuts you up, it makes you weak-kneed, and you can be handled, taken out. With the Andrew Meyer thing, I don't care what you say about the guy. I mean, he may be a complete idiot, he may have a point, whatever. The fact was there were 6 cops that were standing there restraining this guy, and yet they chose to taser him still.
Right. I don't even know if he would have been able to get up.
How would you get up? I mean, they're piled on him. So the chief of police, University of Florida Police Chief Linda Stump, she had a sizable statement. 2 of the officers involved in the incident were placed on paid administrative leave pending outcome of an investigation. They plan to assemble a panel of faculty and students to review police protocols. And administration and police officials plan to analyze the incident and conduct an internal review. And will consider changing protocols in response to the incident. Finally, as standard procedure, the state attorney's office will review the charges brought against Mr. Meyer. We have communicated with the state attorney and understand he plans to expedite this review. Well, whatever. That's from the, it looks like, that was a university official, J. Bernard Machen. I don't know if that's the president of the university or what. But anyhow, so they put 2 of the cops on administrative leave. Whatever. Changing police protocols, maybe. But the question remains, is it fair to use that kind of force, even if it's non-lethal? Have you ever been tasered? You've never been tasered.
I have not been tasered.
No. You've sprained your ankle.
I don't imagine it feels very good.
It's sort of the same question about like tear gas. Mm-hmm. This was a big question sort of in the 70s, 80s to subdue crowds as well. Are you
they just light incense or something?
It's like light incense.
Let's light incense instead.
Excellent. All right, what's our next story? I'm done with this one.
I couldn't think of anything more intelligent to say about that one.
We have got on here, I wrote Ground Zero as a story.
Wonder what we were talking about there.
I do know what we were talking about there.
Do tell.
The Iranian President,
Ahmadinejad.
I'm not going to be able to pronounce it, is being invited to the UN, from what I understand, and going to get a tour of Ground Zero.
Oh, wait. It's a different story. The New York Times says President of Iran will avoid Ground Zero.
Oh.
This is an interesting thing. Police
Commissioner
of New
My
York.
sources are right. I'll just go.
Police Commissioner Ray Kelly said yesterday he would not actually allow Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, President of Iran, anywhere near Ground Zero during his trip to New York next week, but the chance of a diplomatic showdown appeared to lessen when Mr. Ahmadinejad said he would abide by the decision.
Huh.
You know what, dude? I don't really want to go. That would depress me.
Well, yeah. Why would they want to keep him from going? Is it because of the tension that we're having? To me, it seems like it would be I don't know. Like, look, well, never mind.
I don't get the political energy behind it.
I had some friends go to Ground Zero when they were in New York a couple months ago, and they said, you know what, like, it's powerful, but the way it is now, I mean, it's a construction site.
Yeah.
That's what they said.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little, board that's got everyone's names on it, but...
It's like seeing, I don't know, this is going to seem really crass, but it's like seeing the Mona Lisa. It's like it's built up as this priceless piece of art, and it turns out to be the size of a stamp in a glass box. It's just not there yet in order to be immediately impactful. Besides, I mean, it's the same thing we discussed about Patriot Day. It's the whole moving on piece. I don't necessarily get the connection, the political connection between needing Ahmadinejad to go to Ground Zero. Why is that an important thing?
I don't understand that at all.
Why is it a story?
Like, why? Who was it that he was even asking him to? Or was he asking? Or who? I just don't get that.
Let's see. I don't know. He was interviewed. Ahmadinejad was interviewed in Tehran for 60 minutes. Came amid widespread protests, which erupted Wednesday when Kelly said Ground Zero visit by the Iranian president would be considered. At some point, it sounds like he was considering it, and then they decided, no, he's not allowed to go. They have made more of a story about this than
because I'm sitting
probably
here
there
thinking,
ever would
we
be.
really have nothing to talk about.
I mean,
Yeah.
people in Iran don't even like the guy.
No.
He's just a nut.
Yeah.
Maybe he and Dubs should get together.
I don't know if Dub can make room
Well, I'm just saying, based on that comment that Curt just made.
because they're lunatics.
Yes.
He's too busy with he's too busy farting around with Tony Blair.
The 28%
In his
of people
retirement.
that like Ahmadinejad are probably the same 28 people that like 20%.
28
maybe
people.
yeah, who like Bush.
I don't know. It seems like the New York Times is making a story out of something that wasn't one. So it is what it is. What's next? We got to have something better than that.
Yeah, we got. Let's talk about MoveOn.org.
Oh, this was interesting. Curt, why is this interesting?
Yeah, so I guess the story is that MoveOn.org, MoveOn.org, they put an ad, full-page ad, in the New York Times talking about General Petraeus. And this was about General Petraeus
Testimony.
testifying for Congress and everything. And this was all built up. I mean, this was the whole thing, like everybody was talking about. Well, let's just hold off until September, and then we'll get a report from Petraeus, and in September, and that'll tell us kind of how the war is progressing. And if it's progressing, then we'll go. The implication was that if the war was progressing well, then there would be more to do, and if not, then there would be steps that would be taken. And so, he came in, and with his report that was pretty much, I guess, written by Bush.
Did you hear? I mean, did you listen to any of the testimony?
No.
I mean, they were they're ramming 36 hours of testimony.
Right, yeah. No, I mean, I just it felt like it was sort of not really a newsworthy thing to me because all that stuff is canned anyway, kind of pre-written. And so MoveOn's ad in the paper was something along the lines of, Petraeus says all these things, but here are the facts on the ground as MoveOn saw the facts. And so the big thing, though, is that there was a big photo of General Petraeus, and the headline said, General Petraeus or General Betraeus?
It's almost too easy.
Which sounds like Star Wars to me, Curt.
Oh, boy.
Like Mon Mothma. No, I really don't know what to make of this. I don't think it's lost on anybody that Petraeus is a puppet of the administration. I don't know why that this is a big deal.
It wasn't a big deal.
It's not a surprise.
Right, but but all of the pundits, all of the Washington, D.C. people, all of the columnists made this huge deal out of the ad. And granted, MoveOn made themselves kind of an easy target. I mean, Petraeus or Betraeus, like you said, too easy. It's a little juvenile.
Yeah.
But they made this huge deal out of it, and they kind of took advantage of it. The whole to the point all these pundits were saying, like, oh well, this is going to finally create the backlash against the netroots, against the left, and Bush is going to have new traction now because of this. We're going to be seeing an uptick in the polls for George Bush because of this, and they just spent so much energy being in a tizzy about this ad that there was hardly any ink given about people being in a tizzy about the war.
Yeah, and in the end, what happened was it a congressional?
Yeah. So yesterday there were two or three really big votes in the Senate. I'm talking about Thursday, the 20th. I guess I don't remember the date. And one of there was a big thing about attaching funding or a timeline to the troop withdrawals, and that vote failed. And there was another big vote that failed too. I can't remember what it was. And then there was a vote to condemn, by implication at least, using moderate language, the Move On ad. It was just basically about having there be a Senate resolution about treating generals respectfully, something like that. And it passed by a very wide margin.
I am reminded
70 votes yes
of a very great quote by the philosopher Eric Cartman. It said, "You must respect my authority."
Yeah, there's I don't know. I mean, I think, first of all, hey, man, I'm a civvy. Call it like I see it, right? He's a puppet.
Yeah.
He's an employee of puppetry.
Right.
So
this was
what?
a political appointment. They're giving a military guy a political job.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. And so I have no problem with the ad. I have no problem with Move On calling it like they see it. If in their view a spade is in fact a spade, go for it.
And isn't that their job to do that? I mean,
that's why they exist.
You know.
I have a huge problem with wasting taxpayers' money in terms of taking the time that it takes in Senate to create a resolution to say, hey, that was mean.
Play nice.
Dude, that was mean.
Bro.
I mean, give me a break.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Why are we funding that? That makes me crazy.
But what do we do about that?
Well, I'm eating tater tots.
Drinking beer.
I'm drinking beer and I'm armchair quarterbacking this damn thing.
But honestly, as a civvy, what do we do?
As a state, what do we do about our elected? How did they vote? Do you know how they voted? On the resolution to be polite to General
the
Petraeus?
Democratic Oregon people, they never really seem to be on the wrong side of the issue. Because if you're scoring by, from a progressive, move-on-ish kind of perspective.
What does our friend at Blue Oregon say about that?
Yeah,
have you seen?
It's an interesting question.
You don't really know.
I don't know.
All right.
Can you put words in his mouth?
Yeah, Carrie Chisholm says. It's funny. It's like, I don't know. I have been so... I don't really know what it is. It's not quite exhaustion or defeatist or cynical or anything like that, but it's just sort of like...
But when you add them all up, it equals exhaustion
it's some
and
sort
defeatism.
of intersection of those three things. But it's just like, it's all just crap. It's all just like... It's all a facade, it feels like right now. I'm really just sort of waiting for the next president to come along. All of this stuff is just going to be a big song and dance for the next year and a half.
It is. What were you just pointing at, Shane? You were pointing at a thing.
The time.
Yeah. And then what?
Online
chanting.
Cheating.
Online cheating. Oh, yeah.
Because are we done talking about MoveOn.org?
I don't.
Are we moving on?
I don't want to be, because this is so ridiculous. But I think giving it any more time is more than it merits.
I feel like local news right now, to be honest with you, we're kind of reaching for stuff.
Yeah, totally. And that's where we get our last story, which is the do you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain story, which I've lost. so hold on.
That has been. There's something about that song that has been coming up a lot lately.
You know, speaking of pina coladas, and this really doesn't have anything to do with pina coladas, but I was driving on the way here, right? And do you ever trace your own train of thought? You know, have you ever done that? Where,
Like in
how am I
reverse or
thinking
in the
about?
future?
Yeah,
Like how am I going to be thinking in 10 minutes?
like how did I get to?
That'll
to
be
what
a conversation
I'm
for
thinking about
future
now?
Kurt.
Yeah.
You know, how did I get to thinking about what I'm thinking now?
Oh yeah.
So I was
Yeah,
doing that
I do
on the drive over here today, and you know, I was tired and I was yawning in the car. And I thought, wow, well maybe a beer is really going to pick me up, you know, and maybe a couple beers will pick me up. And I thought, great, you know, what am I going to try? Am I going to have a Nebraska on Nitro or an ESB or an IPA? And I
This is
thought,
what you
know
were thinking of?
Yeah, this is my whole train of thought. And then I said, well, you know, it's kind of funny. Jamie Whitley every time gets an Arnold Palmer.
Yeah.
You know, I've never had an Arnold Palmer before, but it's just lemonade and iced tea.
Iced tea.
I thought, you know, that must be his
Signa-
drink of
his
choice.
signature drink?
His signature drink. And then I thought, you know what? Every time I fly, and I'm on the airplane, and the flight attendant asks me what I'd like to drink, every time I say ginger ale.
On an airplane?
On an airplane, I never drink
Why?
ginger ale anywhere else.
Why is that?
That's what I was trying to figure out. And
On the way here,
on
you
the
were
way here. You know,
trying to figure that
so I was
out.
thinking about why do I drink ginger ale, and then I reset my train of thought.
So you never actually solved it.
I didn't. No.
It's like a joke with
but
no
I was wondering
punchline.
if you guys have any of those things. Like you go to the movie theater
Well, I don't
every
drink
time
a-
you get hot tamales or something.
Oh no,
you know?
I go to one movie theater, and I go because they have kettle corn popcorn. Have you had this kettle corn popcorn?
It's brilliant.
There's really nothing quite like it. But I do that, and I get the Coke in the kettle corn. But now you've got me down a little bit of a rat hole because I'm thinking about sweet foods. I don't drink a lot of ginger ale.
But I don't either. I don't drink it anywhere
Yeah.
else except on the airplane.
You wonder how that started.
Yeah, you know. And I don't mix it with any cocktails. I don't buy a 2-liter of it.
There's one of those things like I remember watching. I went to journalism school for my undergraduate, and I remember Phil Donahue came to speak at one of our classes. You know,
Phil Donahue.
Phil Donahue. Remember Phil Donahue?
Yeah.
Who can
Was he
forget
all
Phil?
Who can forget Phil Donahue?
Was he all blustery?
Yes, he was extremely blustery. And
Were his
when
glasses
asked,
down on his
they
nose
were,
by
he
then?
wears his glasses down on his nose when he's trying to make a point. Now, I want you to picture that when I tell you the point he was trying to make. As a broadcaster, one of the early tricks that he was taught was that you don't want, when you're on camera, you don't ever want your shirt to look like it's coming untucked. So he puts his glasses down on his nose, and he says, the thing you got to remember is that on all my underpants, I tuck my undershirt into the underpants, and I have buttons sewn onto the outside of my underpants, and I button my shirts to my underpants.
Whoa.
Wow,
Yeah,
Wow.
that's deep.
that is so deep. Now, I have to admit something to all of you. I don't have buttons on
But
my
you
shirts.
tuck your undershirt
But I've tried
into
that.
your
I've
underpants.
tried that. I've tried the undershirt and the underpants, and you know what? It works.
Wow.
It keeps from untucking a little bit.
The undershirt or the overshirt?
When you tuck the undershirt into the underpants, then you put the shirt on and the pants tuck the shirt into the pants.
Have you ever tucked your overshirt into your underpants?
No, you don't do that because then you get the sneaky peek of the underpants above
your-
the belt line, and
of your
there's a lot of
Marky
risk.
Mark Wahlbergs, yeah.
You do. You
Wow,
get that.
interesting.
Man,
Yeah.
I don't think about this stuff at all.
Yeah, but your mind is a wealth of things that Shane and I
That are
will
more
never
important.
ever think about.
I went on a date with 2 different colored socks because I dressed in the dark.
Remind me
really
to post
happened.
the statistics of your dating life for the last 2 years on the
So-
beer30live.com website.
Now that we're talking about dating.
We're running out of time, is what we're doing. I think we're about to Shanghai Kurt, aren't we? How
No,
we doing?
I think we'll leave Kurt out of this one.
Okay,
We need
go
to
ahead.
save a whole episode for that.
To talk to Kurt.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
We'll disguise his voice and we'll
You're
We'll-
giving it away now,
new
though.
identity.
In 2 weeks.
In 2
we'll
episodes, you're
describe
going to
his
hear this.
voice.
We'll bring a female on to talk about the same thing.
We'll call him Kurt Palpatine. I think there's room for that. Now there's
Can I be named Mystery? What was that guy? The online dating guy, Mystery?
Yeah.
I'll be a conundrum.
Mystery. That was another one. I just caught that on Entertainment Tonight.
Oh, that guy is
Yeah,
awful.
he's pretty bad.
Yeah.
This one's you. This one's yours, Pete.
Which one was
This
that?
online cheating story.
Oh, it was. We just ran across this little story about this couple that they got written up because they were having terrible times in their relationship, and so they went to an online dating community independently as like Snookums and Sweetie Pie, and found each other in the chat room and chatted up each other, told each other about how much their relationship sucks and how they hate their spouse, and it turns out they were already married to each other.
Oh, wow. Something like that actually
Yeah.
happened to me. In my, I broke up with someone long-term.
Conundrum, not now. We're saving it for a different time.
It was just real quick. A long-term relationship, broke up with her. She, well, I'm already giving it away, but I guess since I already gave it away before that. But she ended up putting an ad up on Craigslist, an anonymous ad, and it was just like, hey, I'm looking for someone to go see music with. I'm wanting to go see some chamber music, classical concerts, and also some jazz and stuff like that. And it was all like completely up my alley. And I wrote back and I'm like, oh my God, I've just been looking for exactly the same thing.
And that was her.
And that was her. And then, but it wasn't like how it works out in the in the stories or in that Pina Colada song where it's like a happy ending.
Yeah.
It's more like I ran into her a couple of weeks later and she said, oh, by the way, you responded to my ad. And then we were just both like, God, that
sucks.
Damn it.
Oh, that's the ass end of cruel irony is what that is.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a completely another completely based on no fact whatsoever fictional edition of Beer 30 Live. Thank you all for listening. If you want to find us, head to beer30live.com. You can write us at the show at beer30live.com. You can find Curt at
CurtSiffert.com.
You can typically find me at the end of a bar somewhere.
End of a bar, sad, smoking.
On behalf of Mahmoud Abdulhamid, I'd like to say thank you.
I'm not going to be able to pronounce that one.
I'm an Amininajad.
I'm not going to be able to pronounce that.
Yeah, I'm not going to be. This has been another episode of Beer 30 Live. We'll see you next week, everybody.
All right.